Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people just seem to sail through life achieving their dreams, while others, even really talented people, seem to hit wall after wall?
Yeah, it's something you see all the time.
What if the key isn't just, raw talent? What if it's something simpler, something more fundamental, maybe even entirely within your control? Okay, so today we're taking a deep dive into a really insightful book that offers, well, a pretty revolutionary answer. It's Carol Dweck's Mindset, The New Psychology of Success.
A truly foundational piece of work.
Absolutely. After years of groundbreaking research, Dweck found that one simple belief, just one, has this profound effect on whether people actually fulfill their potential. Let's unpack this.
And what's really striking about Dweck's work, is just how broadly applicable it's turned out to be. It's not just academic theory.
No, not at all.
Her book, it's been translated into, 17 languages. It's won awards in social psychology, developmental psych, education, and it's caught the serious attention of huge companies, Fortune 100s, major school systems, even the U.S. Olympic Coaching Committee.
Wow, okay, so boardroom to classroom to the Olympic track.
Exactly. It resonates everywhere. And you hear it from readers, too. Hundreds of letters saying this book helped them see why they were stuck and, crucially, what they could actually do differently. It touches so many parts of life: business, parenting, sports.
So our mission here in this deep dive is really to pull out the most important nuggets from Dweck's work. We want to help you understand how this core belief really does permeate every part of your life. And maybe more importantly, how you can actually use these ideas to unlock your own potential.
Yeah, make it practical.
Exactly. So Dweck's journey into this whole mindset thing didn't start with some grand theory, did it? It was more observational.
Surprisingly so, yeah. She started just by watching kids grappling with difficult problems.
And she expected, differences in coping. Some frustration, some perseverance, the usual stuff.
Right. But what she actually saw, she called it revolutionary. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
She talks about these two 10-year-old boys. They're given these really hard puzzles.
Right.
And one boy, instead of getting intimidated, he literally pulls up his chair, rubs his hands together, smacks his lips, and yells out, "I love a challenge!"
Seriously, a 10-year-old.
Yeah. And the other one, he's sweating, clearly working hard, but he looks up, pleased, and says, I was hoping this would be informative.
Informative, not "this is too hard."
And exactly. Totally unexpected reactions. And that really shifted things for Dweck. She admitted that before this, she kind of believed human qualities were mostly carved in stone.
Like most of us probably assume, right?
Pretty much. But these kids showed something else entirely. And from that, she defined these two fundamental mindsets that shape how we face challenges.
Okay, let's break them down.
So first, you've got the fixed mindset. This is the core belief that your basic qualities, your intelligence, your personality, even your moral character, they're just fixed traits.
Yeah.
Set in stone, basically. Pretty much. That's how it feels. And this belief creates what Dweck calls an urgency to prove yourself over and over.
Ah, okay. Because if it's fixed.
Exactly. If your intelligence is fixed, then every single situation becomes a test. Am I going to succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Accepted or rejected, winner or loser.
Wow, that sounds exhausting.
It is. It's less about learning, more about constantly proving you've already got a healthy dose of whatever trait is valued.
And the pressure that creates.
Yeah.
I mean, if you believe your worth is tied to this fixed thing, any challenge just feels like a threat, right? Like you're carrying this fragile thing you have to protect.
Perfectly put. It's high stakes all the time. Now, contrast that with the growth mindset.
Okay.
This is built on a totally different idea. It's the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate. You can develop them through effort, through learning, through experience.
So not fixed at all.
Not at all. It acknowledges people might start at different places, different aptitudes. But crucially, everyone can change and grow.
Right.
So for someone with this mindset, your true potential is unknown and unknowable. You just can't predict what someone might achieve with years of passion, hard work, toil, and training.
So fixed is about defending who you are. Growth is about becoming something more. Let's make that concrete. Dweck uses this great, really bad day example. Super relatable.
Yeah, the trifecta of bad luck.
Right. You get a C+ on a midterm, you find a parking ticket on your car, and then your best friend kind of brushes you off.
Yeah.
How do the mindsets handle that?
Okay, so the fixed mindset reaction. It's often pretty dramatic. People reported feeling like a reject, a total failure, worthless and dumb.
Ouch, from those three things.
Yeah. The internal monologue spirals, my life is pitiful. And the coping, often giving up, doing nothing, maybe even picking a fight. It's like these minor setbacks become proof of utter failure.
Which raises that question, why? Why react so drastically? Why turn everyday annoyances into this massive personal failure and, paralysis?
Well, because for the fixed mindset, remember, these aren't just random events. They're seen as direct measurements of your inherent worth.
Ah, okay. The C+ isn't just a grade.
It's proof you're not smart. The parking ticket isn't just annoying, it means you're irresponsible. The friend brushing you off isn't about them, it's proof you're unlikable.
So your whole identity feels like it's on the line.
Exactly. It feels like an attack on who you are. Now, the growth mindset reaction to the same bad day, completely different.
How so?
Their responses focused on action. They thought things like, okay, I need to try harder in class, or, gotta be more careful parking, and crucially, I wonder if my friend had a bad day. I should probably check in.
So outward-focused problem solving.
Right. They were ready to take the risks, confront the challenges, and keep working at them, Dweck says. Even if they still felt bad, they weren't paralyzed. They moved towards understanding and improving.
The difference is stark. One spirals down, the other gears up. So this leads us to something really fundamental, effort. How do these mindsets view plain old hard work?
This is one of the most fascinating parts, I think. For people really locked into that fixed mindset, effort is, well, it's actually seen as a bad thing.
Bad.
Because it implies you lack natural ability. The thinking goes, if you were really smart or talented, it would just come easily.
Right. Real geniuses don't have to try.
Exactly that idea. So if you have to put in a lot of effort, it feels like proof you're not actually good enough, which leads to this deep reluctance to even try hard.
Because trying hard and failing is the worst possible outcome.
It's the ultimate confirmation of your inadequacy in that view.
And Dweck admits she had this bias too, right? Thinking her colleagues working late weren't as smart.
She did. Early on, yeah. And, our society often echoes this, doesn't it? We glorify the natural, the effortless accomplishment, the prodigy, the overnight success.
Yeah, we downplay the sweat equity.
Totally. Which creates this perfect but often damaging environment for the fixed mindset to thrive.
But the growth mindset flips this script completely.
Radically. For them, effort isn't shameful, it's the engine. Effort is what ignites ability and turns it into accomplishment. That's Dweck's phrase.
Ignites ability. I like that.
Think about stories like Seabiscuit, the racehorse, or Laura Hillenbrand, who wrote about him. Both overcame huge obstacles, chronic challenges, not through innate gifts alone, but through sheer dogged determination. A triumph of will.
Those are powerful stories about effort transforming things.
Absolutely. They're narratives about the power of effort.
But that fear of effort in the fixed mindset, it can be crippling. Dweck mentions the violinist Nadia Salerno-Sonnenberg.
A prodigy.
Right, a prodigy who said, nothing is harder than saying, I gave it my all and it wasn't good enough.
And that right there is the core fear. Trying your absolute hardest, putting everything in, and still falling short.
So it feels safer not to try your hardest, to protect that illusion of talent.
Precisely. Keep that potential what if alive.
Okay, so if effort is key, what does this do to our whole idea of potential? We talk about naturals all the time. People just born with gifts.
Right. This idea that potential is fixed, something you either have or you don't.
But Dweck challenges that fundamentally, doesn't she?
She really does. She argues that true potential is fundamentally unknown and unknowable. You simply cannot predict what someone can achieve with years of passion, hard work, deliberate practice.
So all those early tests, expert opinions,
Yeah.
they don't tell the whole story.
Not even close, according to this view. It completely shifts the focus from what are they born with to what can they become.
Can you give some examples?
Oh, it's
because that's a big claim.
examples are striking. Think about Charles Darwin or Leo Tolstoy. Giants, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Both were considered pretty ordinary children. No signs of genius.
Really, Darwin, Tolstoy.
Yeah.
Or Ben Hogan, one of the greatest golfers ever.
Yeah.
As a kid, completely uncoordinated and graceless.
Oh, okay.
Photographer Cindy Sherman failed her first photography course. Geraldine Page, the famous actress, told flat out to give it up for lack of talent.
That's brutal. Even Paul Cézanne. His early paintings were apparently pretty bad. The point is, it takes time for potential to flower. Often years of work, despite initial signs suggesting otherwise.
But potential isn't a snapshot, it's a trajectory. It's about growth over time.
Exactly. And this changes who you look for, right? If you're building a team or admitting students.
Like that NASA example,
Yeah.
rejecting people with perfect success records.
Right. They specifically selected people who had faced significant failures and bounced back. They wanted resilience, a growth mindset.
Or the ballet teacher, Marina Semyonova, choosing students energized by criticism.
Yeah, not necessarily the most graceful initially, but the ones who saw feedback as fuel for improvement. They were selecting for mindset, not just current skill.
Okay, this is huge. Which brings us to praise. This is maybe the most counterintuitive part for a lot of people.
Definitely, especially for parents, teachers, anyone guiding young people. The insight is this. Praising kids for their intelligence or talent, saying you're so smart or you're natural. It feels good, but it can actually harm their motivation.
Harm it. How?
Dweck's research is really clear here. That kind of ability praise, it pushes kids straight into a fixed mindset.
Because you're labeling a fixed quality.
Precisely. So then, when those same kids face difficulty later on, their confidence just tanks. They suddenly become reluctant to take on new challenges. Why?
Fear of failure. Fear of proving the smart label wrong.
Exactly. Fear of exposing flaws. Some kids in the studies even lied about their scores to protect that smart image.
Yeah.
Dweck puts it starkly. It was almost as if praising their ability actually lowered their effective IQ because it made them avoid the very challenges needed for growth.
Wow. Okay, so what's the alternative? What kind of praise works?
Praising the process, praising effort, saying things like, wow, you must have worked really hard on that, or I can see you really thought through different strategies there.
Focusing on the action, not the trait.
Right. And this consistently fostered a growth mindset. These kids embraced challenges, they actually enjoyed difficult tasks more, and their performance improved over time.
Because it teaches them achievement comes from what they do.
Yes. It's controllable. It's about effort and learning, not some fixed, fragile gift.
That makes so much sense when you lay it out like that. And this isn't just about positive labels like smart. It applies to negative labels and stereotypes too, right?
Absolutely. Think about pervasive negative stereotypes. Your group isn't good at math, or people like you aren't leadership material.
Yeah, those can be incredibly damaging.
Especially for someone with a fixed mindset. If you believe abilities are fixed, then that stereotype feels like a verdict, like a destiny. It can be paralyzing, lead to underperformance, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
But the growth mindset offers a defense.
It takes the teeth out of the stereotype, as Dweck says. It allows you to fight back.
How?
Because if you believe abilities can be developed, you don't accept the idea of permanent inferiority. If you're behind, the growth mindset motivates you to work harder, learn more, prove the stereotype wrong through action.
So you don't internalize the limit.
Exactly. You can even learn from what feel like threatening environments. Dweck tells this great story about African-American college students. They had this professor they found really critical, even called him a pompous asshole.
Okay.
But even though they didn't like his delivery, they still found value in his feedback. Why? Because their goal wasn't to impress him or prove they were already smart. Their goal was to get an education, to grow.
So they could separate the criticism from their sense of self-worth.
Right. Their focus was on learning, not on being judged. That's incredibly empowering. It means you choose how much power you give external judgments.
And this plays out everywhere, doesn't it? This isn't just theory. We see these mindsets shaping outcomes in, well, pretty much every important area of life.
Definitely. Take school, for example.
Okay.
Fixed mindset students often hit a wall during tough transitions, like going from middle school to high school. Grades drop. They start blaming teachers, feeling stupid.
Because the increased difficulty feels like proof they can't cut it.
Right. Compare that to someone like George Dantzig, the guy who solved those famous math problems.
The ones he thought were homework.
Exactly. He didn't see the difficulty as a stop sign. He just assumed it was hard homework, mobilized his resources, dug in, and solved them. His growth mindset didn't even let him consider they might be unsolvable for him.
That's amazing. And in sports, we see this constantly.
Oh, dramatically. You have incredibly talented naturals, maybe like baseball's Billy Beane or tennis's John McEnroe.
Huge talents.
Immense talent, but they often struggled intensely with setbacks, blamed external factors, melted down under pressure, got furious. Because failure just didn't compute with their fixed view of their own talent. It felt like a personal flaw.
Right. But then you look at legends like Muhammad Ali,
who actually failed some physical measures for boxing, but had brilliant strategy, unbreakable will.
or Michael Jordan, famously cut from his high school team.
The classic example. His greatness wasn't just talent. It was relentless effort, learning from every failure, that constant drive to improve. That's pure growth mindset.
It's the difference between protecting a talent label and actually building mastery. And this is huge in business and leadership, too.
Absolutely critical. Dweck points to companies like Enron. Their whole culture was built on a talent mindset.
What did that mean in practice?
It meant employees were terrified of admitting mistakes, asking for help. Everyone had to constantly prove they were the smartest person in the room, a toxic fixed mindset culture.
And we know how that ended. Catastrophically.
Right. Now contrast that with what Jim Collins called level 5 leaders, people like Alan Wurtzel at Circuit City.
What characterized them?
They were often self-effacing, humble, constantly asking questions, confronting the brutal facts, focused on long-term development of the organization, not their own short-term glory.
So facilitators of growth, not fixed geniuses.
Exactly. And on the flip side, you get what Dweck calls CEO disease. Think of figures like Lee Iacocca later in his career.
What happens there?
It's the fixed mindset in power, an inability to take feedback, surrounding themselves with yes men, an inflated sense of their own brilliance, resisting change, ultimately undermining the very organization they lead.
A really dangerous trap. Okay, finally, let's touch on relationships. How do mindsets play out there?
Well, the fixed mindset often comes with this ideal of instant, perfect, and perpetual compatibility.
The soulmate myth.
Sort of. You put your partner on a pedestal. You expect the relationship to be effortless, magical. So the minute there's a real disagreement or you see a flaw,
it shatters the illusion.
Yeah, it can feel like proof of fundamental incompatibility. This isn't the one, which can lead to disillusionment, giving up easily.
Because a perfect relationship should just be right. No work required.
In that view, yes. It's found, not built. But the growth mindset, totally different approach.
Oh, so?
It embraces the idea that all aspects of a relationship, communication, intimacy, even conflict resolution, are capable of growth and change.
So problems aren't deal breakers, they're opportunities.
Exactly. Disagreements aren't signs of failure. They're seen as a vehicle for developing greater understanding and intimacy. It takes patience, effort, learning.
Like any other skill you develop.
Precisely. They understand that a good relationship requires work, mutual learning, and development over time. It's a much more resilient and ultimately, I think, more fulfilling way to approach partnership.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, thinking about everything we've discussed, what does this really mean for you, the listener? This deep dive into Carol Dweck's work really hammers home that one simple belief about your own abilities. It can just dramatically change your path.
Yeah, it profoundly impacts whether you actually fulfill your potential.
And the best part?
The best part is that mindsets are just beliefs. Okay,
Yes.
Powerful beliefs, yes. But ultimately, they live in your mind, and you can change your mind.
That's the key takeaway. It's a choice.
It absolutely is. You have a choice about which world you want to live in, which lens you use to see yourself and your challenges. Fixed or growth.
So here's something to think about. Consider something you've maybe put off doing because you secretly feared you just didn't have the talent. Or think about a setback that made you feel like a failure and maybe made you want to hide or give up. What if, just as an experiment, you tried on the growth mindset for that situation? Even for just a moment, what new possibilities might open up if you consciously decided to embrace effort, learning, and the process itself rather than worrying about proving something?
Yeah.
How could you use this insight, not just for yourself, but maybe to help stretch those around you, your kids, your team at work, your friends, towards their potential? What new heights could be reached if we all remembered that potential ultimately is unknown and unknowable?